Well, it's certainly been an interesting day for me so far, let me tell you. Um, I have a lot I want to talk about today, mostly about Godzilla, which, as you know, is coming out tomorrow. And I kind of want to talk about that. I know there's some other stuff some people want me to talk about, and I think I will, but at the same time, I don't feel a rush to do it just because some people are just so cemented in certain thoughts right now that I really don't think it's gonna do much good. But yes, I haven't forgotten about the other Spider-Man stuff I said I was going to talk about before you say anything. In other news, um, interesting little tidbit of information. Apparently, Bryan Singer, um, sex assault cases aside, is apparently openly admitting that he pretty much just said screw continuity and is hoping that you, the public, the viewers, will forget about the continuity errors. Which, if you want proof of that, I'm going to link it. But, wow. He's pretty much just refusing to go back, rewrite, reboot, do anything. Just trudge forward. Let's hope everyone forgets. So that's all kinds of fun. Um, but moving onward, yes, Godzilla. I have to admit, I've got a lot to cover here. So let me just break it down simply. I'm very much looking forward to this movie. I have very much been looking forward to it ever since I heard they were making it. But I have my fears. Okay, I don't know how to say this. I have my worries. It's one of those things where it's like how to say this. Well, it's got a lot of potential and it's got the potential to be great, but it also has the potential to let me down as a fan, and that's not something I thought I'd say, but when I speak on this, you'll understand why that might be a little odd and somewhat controversial. That being said, most of my fear is also already gone. But I want to talk about something here, and that is these complaints that some of the more hardcore fans of the Japanese films are putting out, and some of the well complaints in general is there's a common thread in Japan and among some of the Japanese fans that this movie has a Godzilla that's too big. Granted, it is the tallest Godzilla seen on film, um, almost as tall, almost the same height as, but a little taller than the Godzilla seen in Final Wars. But I really don't know that that's necessarily an issue. He's huge, sure, but you know, well, uh, I don't really know that I see a problem. Um, However, okay, what really gets me is, I mean, I can kind of understand that Godzilla traditionally has only been like 100 or so on feet tall, 200 feet tall. This whole 300 feet tall, 350 feet tall actually is I can understand why that would be a little for some, but this next one really gets me. That he's too bulky. This Godzilla is too fat. And considering some of the Godzilla designs that have been put out over there in Japan, especially in the Showa era and some in the Heisei era as well, of Godzilla, to call this one ugly or fat is amusing, to say the least. But um, that's neither here nor there. I really don't get why. But in regards to also ugly and ugly Godzilla's complaints about Godzilla, I also kind of want to touch on Godzilla '98, and here's why. I don't think it's bad. That's a controversial opinion, I know. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad as a Godzilla movie, and I don't think it's bad as a movie. And the reason I say it's not bad as a Godzilla movie is because it is not meant to be a Godzilla movie in the same vein as the others. It was supposed to be a complete, unique creature with a complete, unique set of behavior, and was meant to be, well, a separate thing altogether. The reason they called it Godzilla is because one of the traumatized fishermen who had survived kept saying Gojira, and it was similar to the way Godzilla had appeared. Very similar, in fact, to the 1985 movie The Return of Godzilla. In the whole fishing boat and the the spine, the thing under the water, and it's just he appeared in a very similar manner as that movie, which I actually thought was kind of a cool tribute. But and they even specifically refer to the creature of legend, so on and so forth. They also, interestingly enough, kind of a little wink, had the girl, Audrey, correcting the dude who stole her story, who said Godzilla, even though it was actually Gojira, which I thought was kind of funny, but they changed who it was, yeah, but at the same time, again, they acknowledge this is supposed to be a separate creature. And, they traded in the whole huge tank-like status for being slightly smaller, but also faster, and more agile, more mobile, which is also why, and it was intelligent, it was very smart, it was able to hide, it was able to create it was able to set a trap, bait it, even convince them that it was working before finally popping in right behind them and taking out the helicopters, faked its death when that sub hit it, all that. It was actually very intelligent and very unique, and I can appreciate that. And that's what they were going for. They wanted to respect the original movies without just simply, remaking them. They wanted it to be its own unique film and its own unique creature, and they did that. So I'm not really sure why it's quite as hated as it is. I mean, I even see a lot of people say, well, if they gave it a different name, it wouldn't be so bad. Well, the Japanese renamed it Zilla, so there you go. I mean, even in the movie, the whole reason they call it that is just because they heard an old man saying it, and there was a legendary, and there's a legendary monster named Godzilla, so we'll just call it after that. And that's just because they needed a name to call it that. So I can understand it in the sense that it does seem like a waste of the Godzilla license, but I don't really think it's that bad. The acting was okay. Matthew Broderick was not an orthodox choice, but he wasn't supposed to be. He's not playing an action hero, he's playing a scientist. And the French dude that they got, I cannot remember the man's name, forgive me, but he was the action hero type, and that's who he played in the show, and it was good. Everybody played their respective parts very well. So, and well, yeah, I know some people are going to say, he got taken out by the military. Yeah, because he's a much smaller creature and he's not a tank. His entire ability to survive and fend them off depended on his agility, which they took out when they trapped him on that suspension bridge. So, I mean, it's not like he was an easy kill or a pushover either, because they did take away his strength by doing that, and thus they were able to finally pick it up. But I don't know. I just don't get the hate, I guess. I can understand why you'd be disappointed, but to outright hate the thing the way some people do, I don't understand that. I don't. But that's me, and people are entitled to their opinions, I suppose. I just don't get this one. Especially considering some of the cheese, again, from the Showa era, but I digress. But this movie, I'm going into it with a tiny bit of fear, because one thing that Godzilla has always been, even Godzilla 98, was the Showa era, the Heisei era, to a point, was fun, in the sense that it embraced the spectacle. It didn't, sit there and try to tone everything down way too much. It didn't sit there and, try to subdue everything, try to make this as realistic as possible, because it realized this is a giant lizard that can spew atomic fire from its mouth, destroying Tokyo or the respective city wherever it was located. And to me, that I don't know, it carries its own sense of spectacle, and to sit there and to lose that or suspend that in any way, shape, or form, to me would be just kind of foolish. I mean, it's one thing to play it up like this disaster and everything, and show the horrible sides of it as well. But at the same time, there's a sense of awe, and I'm just a little bit worried. Pacific Rim managed to capture that pretty well with what they were doing. It was still pretty clearly a grim situation, but they had their moments where it was just they just embraced the spectacle of it. The Godzilla film, I don't know, from what I'm seeing in the trailers, doesn't really seem to want to do that. It seems to be trying to root it in reality. It's not naming its monsters; it's giving them a designation, Muto or Muto or whatever, which something or other like modified or mutated, unidentified terrestrial organism, something like that, and it's just kind of generic. I mean, there's multiple monsters with the same kind of name and just a number designation or something. That to me, that's kind of taking some of the fun out of it. Really, they need to name the things. If they have, and I'm wrong, and I only know about like something, that's great, and I'll be very happy to be wrong. But that's the vibe I get from it. I was also worried about the atomic breath, but thankfully that seems to be there. According to interviews I read, that is going to still be there. Just not used as much as it has in like Japanese Godzilla films for the sake of realism. And there's that word that I'm a little worried about, but at the same time, I can understand it being used in this context because it is, in fact, it's a super powerful thing. It'd be a very dangerous thing. So I can understand it being used as a last resort. But when it comes to, it being there, that makes me a lot happier. I'm also a little bit worried because I hear a lot of people say that it's quite a ways into the film before Godzilla actually shows up, and that could actually be a weak spot because, I mean, it's one thing when it was Pacific Rim. I mean, Pacific Rim was about people fighting kaiju, so if and when they weren't on the screen, it made more sense because it's more about the people. Godzilla, though, I mean, he's even the title character, and if he's not in there very much, that could be problematic. Now, again, I'd have to see this balance for myself, but, I'm hoping that they find a good balance for it. I think they will. I'm actually going to read the prequel novel now. That might help me understand things going into the movie. But, these are just some of my fears, some of my thoughts, and overall, I'm really looking forward to it, and I am definitely going to review this movie once I get back from it. So, anyways, that's it for now, and I will catch you guys after I get back from the movie. So, tomorrow night then, probably. See ya.